I've owned this 262,000 mile BMW M3 for 5 years, in high school and in college. Today, I want to give all of you a grueling, no filter review as to what it actually is like living with a high mileage BMW project car. It's not all rainbows and sunshine like the internet makes it out to be. It's been a while. You all probably thought I was dead, but I was actually just sleeping for a month. I was asleep so long, in fact, that I missed our 5-year anniversary with Sparky, and I graduated college. So before we get into this, I don't mean to make this video to dissuade you from buying a high mileage BMW project car. More so just so you know what to expect. There's a great quote I like, which is, "Disappointment falls upon those whose expectations have been thwarted." So in English and in context, if you know what you're in for before you buy one, then when the BMW do what it does, break, you're not gonna be as disappointed about it. And you're not gonna go on the forums and say, these cars are terrible, it's supposed to be reliable, this and that. You'll know what to expect before you buy one. So quick overview. I bought Sparky, our high mileage BMW E36 M3, 5 years ago in 2020 on my 17th birthday in April. At the time, she had 222,000 miles all those years ago. And I will never forget the first time I ever drove her and what it felt like. And now I suddenly feel really old. Maybe just because I graduated college. In these 5 years of ownership, I've driven Sparky up to 262,000 miles. If I put 40,000 miles on this car in my time of driving it, we've taken her through 2 winters. And recently I did the math. In the 5 years I've owned this car, over half of them, the car has not been driving and on the road, either as a result of being worked on by myself or a shop, or it was in storage for the winter. So I think I've done a pretty good job at putting miles in this car, considering I put basically 40,000 miles on it and effectively what would have been 2.5 years of actual road time. So through this experience, I think I can offer all of you a good perspective and a good flavor as to what owning a high mileage BMW is actually like. So why would you buy a high mileage BMW? Well, realistically, the price. When you look at the prices of these cars, obviously the more miles it has, the cheaper it is. And it's much easier to buy a nice example of a high mileage one than it is to buy a nice example of a low mileage one. This car has 262,000 miles, and on a good day, it's probably worth like maybe $12,500. Whereas one with a third of the miles, say like 80, 90,000, would probably be worth 20 to 25. This lower price prospect makes buying one of these appear like a much better deal. I can get this awesome BMW for pennies on the dollar. And then you get hit with the cold, harsh reality that it's not as good as it was made out to be in your head. It's not too good to be true. The maintenance is what does these cars in.
Bruh.
Unlike a Honda or Toyota, if you leave one of these broken, it's gonna lead to other problems later. So you kind of have to fix them as you go. I would say basically every couple of months, you're probably gonna shell out another $500 to $1,000, maybe more or less, depending on where the car is at in its maintenance cycle. At least that's on a 3 Series. If you buy one of the more expensive models, 5, 7 Series, it can cost a lot more money and a lot more of your time. We'll talk about some ways you can look for a nice example of a high mileage car and give yourself the best shot at buying a good one later on in this video. European cars get a reputation for being high maintenance vehicles, and unfortunately, BMWs are no different, and it gets worse with mileage. BMWs are high-strung, tight-tolerance vehicles, so anytime any of the parts fall out of spec, you have to fix it and replace it because the whole rest of the system has to compensate. But unlike Japanese or American cars, these aren't built with owner neglect in mind. They're very austere, made for rule followers, people that are going to follow the maintenance book to a T. Right at 36,433 miles, you will replace that stupid whatever you probably have to replace. Probably the water pump. BMWs require a change in mindset when it comes to maintenance. Preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance is fixing a problem before it is a problem. The old line, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, does not apply to these cars. On a BMW, things have a service life. Every part on the car has an expected life. And when that time comes up and you're at that mileage or time interval, you have to replace those parts, even if they're working. This goes back to the whole tight tolerance, high spec, whatever I said earlier. Parts have a service life so that they don't fall out of tolerance and the car keeps operating the way it's supposed to be. Because of this, when you buy a high mileage BMW, it's very likely, and I would say honestly guaranteed, that a lot of parts are going to be past their expiration date. In the BMW world, we call that deferred maintenance. And usually when you buy a high mileage car, you're gonna have to catch up on the deferred maintenance. In English, you're gonna have to replace a bunch of parts because it was put off into the future. And a lot of people make that the future owner's problem. This is how you get dealership bills and inspections that sometimes reach up to $10,000. Even though the car seems to run and drive okay. It's because the dealer is gonna nitpick every single little part that is out of spec, overdue, or needs to be replaced. Sidebar on the point of dealerships, don't take your high mileage BMW to a dealership. The dealership does a good job at replacing parts on like newer, lower mileage cars. But when it comes to these things, you're gonna pay up the hiked up dealer parts prices. And a lot of the times they're not even gonna do as good of a job at fixing it as a regular secondhand shop would. Because a lot of these extra shops understand that a lot of these higher mileage cars need restoration as opposed to maintenance. And I've had on more than one occasion at the dealer and not at the dealer that they did something incorrectly, incomplete, and I had to go back and fix the problem, which is really frustrating. And when you're maintaining your high mileage BMW, you're going to have to buy parts. Generally, I would say only buy parts from vendors of European car websites. This would be websites like Turner Motorsport, ECS Tuning, FCP Euro, BIM World, etc., etc. Which brings us to today's sponsor. There's a sponsored segment. That would be Turner Motorsport and ECS Tuning. Turner Motorsport and ECS Tuning carry all of your needed aftermarket, OE, OEM, and genuine parts. And with a lifetime warranty, you can be assured that they are going to provide you with high quality parts that won't break. If you need to buy parts for your high mileage, aging European or BMW project cars, click the link in the description down below to support the vendors that support MTech. The reason that you want to buy parts from European car vendor websites is quality control. See, because European cars are tight tolerance, high stress vehicles, when any part is out of tolerance, you have to replace it. When you buy a part from a website like Turner Motorsport, ECS Tuning, or you go to the dealer or whoever else you want to buy parts from, you know that part has been quality control and tested, usually. But when you go to Rock Auto, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, you can never really be too sure. I've had a lot of instances where I bought parts for this car on eBay, Amazon, etc., and they didn't work. Now, I've also had some that worked, but there's less of a guarantee, and especially with anything electronic, sensors, computer modules, you really only want to buy reputable. And sometimes a lot of those sensors, I would say just buy the BMW ones because the aftermarket ones have a tendency to not always work. So for your own sake and saving time and money and frankly headache, just buy good parts the first time. Don't waste your time with crappy aftermarket stuff. Also, a good rule of thumb when it comes to aftermarket parts, if it costs significantly less than the factory part, you probably shouldn't buy it. Not in every instance, especially with suspension or coilovers. Don't buy cheap coilovers. They just ruin the way the car drives. It's a horrible mod. So there you go. And for your own sanity, don't buy Amazon window regulators. They don't work. They never have, they never will. Don't buy Amazon window regulators, ever. Now, a workaround to the expensive genuine parts would be to buy used parts, which I've done before, and it can work with a lot of parts. I would usually say trim pieces, anything cosmetic, like seats, you know, that sort of thing, you have a pretty easy time finding used, because you're just looking at the condition of it. When it comes to mechanical parts, I've done that too. Just make sure you know what you're looking for. Don't buy junk. Do your own due diligence and research. This is the part of the video where it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's going to be, well, cost of ownership. When you buy a high mileage car, you're more likely to buy something that is going to have random extraneous issues that you wouldn't have with a low mileage car. A lot of lifetime parts breaking, And sometimes, if you're gonna pay shops to work on the car and restore it to get it to the condition of a lower mileage car, you would have just been better off buying a lower mileage car in the first place, because the dollars it will cost you to get the car to that point, it will have made a lot more sense for you to have bought a low mileage car. Now, there is an instance where it does make a lot of sense to buy a higher mileage car, and that's if you want to drive it a lot, and you're also not expecting perfection. Regardless of whether you buy a high or low mileage BMW, you're gonna have to replace consumables. Brakes, plugs, coils, fuel filters, all of that stuff. And if you buy a higher mileage car, you're saving a lot of the cost and potential depreciation hit. Whereas if you buy a lower mileage car, as you drive more miles, if you say take it from 90,000 to 140, that's gonna be a much bigger depreciation hit than taking a 180,000 mile car to 230,000 miles. If you just want a weekend driver though, then buying a higher mileage car might not make as much sense, because you might have to replace things that you wouldn't have had to replace otherwise on the lower mileage car. So all that cost savings and money that you think you saved up front by buying the higher mileage one, you will then fork out later and replacing a lot of the lifetime parts. Using this metric, buying a lower mileage car makes the cost per mile a lot less, because you're just doing maintenance. Whereas with the lower mileage car, you'd be doing maintenance and you're eating depreciation cost. So you have to look at it from a cost per mile perspective. What was the overall cost of ownership if you plan on selling it? As a practical example, I have $30,000 into this car, but I only bought it for $6,000 back in 2020. But I'm getting to a point where I can sort of drive and enjoy the car, and I have sort of caught up on all the deferred maintenance. So at the end of my 10 years of ownership, say I own it for 10 years, the overall cost per mile won't be as bad. It is possible to own a high mileage BMW project car. This is part of the video where I tell you about things you can do when looking for one. And there's one main thing that is going to make your experience so much better. That is service records, and service records. Service records and a maintenance history, a document or paper trail of the car, is going to do so much for your ownership of the car, because it shows that it's been maintained, things have been replaced. Now, you can't rely solely on the paper history for a car. I've made that mistake before. But it generally gives you a good indicator that the car was taken care of and that it hasn't been as neglected, and you will have less deferred maintenance. When you have a paper trail, it also shows that somebody had some level of pride of ownership in the car, which is not uncommon for a BMW, and that they reasonably took care of it. When you're buying a car, you're also sort of buying the seller. How did the seller take care of the car? Did they abuse it and neglect it, or did they take care of it? BMWs do really well with high mileage life. The engines, the transmissions, differentials, all of it. This engine is 262,000 miles, and all that's been done to it was a head gasket at like 255. And that was after multiple overheats. So as long as the car has been reasonably taken care of, and it has been abused or neglected, which is the recipe for disaster on these, then you'll probably have a pretty nice experience owning a high mileage BMW. I'd say in 5 years, this is still my favorite car that I've ever driven and owned. It is possible to own one of these higher mileage BMWs. They're not as unapproachable as you might think, but you need to be honest with yourself. Can you afford it? Can I afford it? That's what you need to ask yourself. Be realistic, price it out. Can I afford the maintenance? Can I afford to pay somebody to work on it, or do I need to work on it myself? I basically learned how to do everything I know how to do on cars working on this car. It was approachable, but that said, I always had to take my time and make sure that I was doing everything the right way. The head gasket job I did for the first time ever on this car, but it took me an entire winter, and I had the luxury of kind of letting it sit and working through it at my own pace. But now, because of that, I feel pretty confident that I can do it again. So keep it real with yourself. Can you maintain it? And if you know that you can, it's gonna be a pretty awesome experience. I hope you all enjoyed this video, a little bit of insight into high mileage BMW ownership. I hope you guys gained a new, hopefully more well-rounded perspective than the rainbow sunshine that everyone on the internet tells you. It's going to be hard. It's not the easiest car to live with, but they can be really rewarding and fun cars to own. And I've, well, not loved every second, but I've loved a lot of my ownership of this car. If you're new here, you should subscribe. We're gonna do a bunch of other videos of this car, and we drive a lot of cars and do a lot of cool stuff. If you enjoy this style of content, smash the like button in the description down below. It lets me know that you all enjoy this type of content. And comment down below if you have any questions, comments, you wanna show your support. I love reading your guys' comments. It means a lot to me. So take care, and we will see you in the next one.